The mirror principle. Now, it's interesting because growing up, every time my family saw someone with money, they would say they must have done something shady. They're gonna reincarnate as a pig. I'm not joking. That's the actual programming I grew up with. Buddhist family, Catholic school, both telling me money is evil. And for years, I repelled every dollar that came my way because of this, until I learned the mirror principle and realized your external reality is just reflecting your internal beliefs. And in this video, I'm going to prove this to you using science, ancient philosophy, and a client who went from 5 clients a day to 11 clients in 3 hours by changing nothing but his internal state. Let's get into it. So I got hit with triple programming. Buddhist parents telling me to detach from money. Well, we have none. Catholic school saying the poor are blessed. And then military school teaching me plan for the worst, hope for the best. And this one especially, I'm sure you have heard something along these lines or these variations. Plan for the worst, hope for the best. I thought that last one was so logical, so I adopted it, right? Because when I was in military school, it was all about system, obey. It was all about discipline. And this pattern kept playing out in my life. When I was in university, I was expect a B, get a B or B minus. First business, back like 5 years ago, I expect things not to work and they didn't. I was stuck in the same revenue for a year, to be honest, grinding 60 hours weeks while watching others succeed with half the effort. And I would literally cope with myself, I'm working harder, I will eventually outpace them. But that didn't happen. It wasn't until that I learned what I'm about to teach you that I realized plan for the worst, to be honest, means you're expecting the worst and you get what you expect. And all those Buddhist programming, I was literally detaching from money. There's like Catholic guilt creating poverty to say, stay holy. Military belief manifesting the worst, right? Nowadays, my input is way less, output is a lot higher. I don't need to sit at my store anymore. I'm operating on less input, more output, because I leverage the mirror principle. Whether you want more money doing what you love, better relationships, better health, better careers, there's nothing off limits when you understand this. So let's get into it, right? So you might be asking to yourself, what is mirror principle? It sounds pretty cool. And here's what most of you get backwards, right? You think that circumstances creates feelings. Circumstances creates feelings, but I would say it's actually the opposite. Your internal state create your circumstances. The mirror principle essentially really is just a way to say your external reality is just a mirror reflecting what's inside you. Now, it doesn't matter what you do, but when you're operating from fear, lack, limitation internally, that's what really gets reflected externally. Operating from abundance, confidence, possibility, that's what shows up in your physical world. And the outer world always follows the inner world. Outer world always follows the inner world. Always. Always. It doesn't matter if you're spiritual or not, practical or not, scientific or not. This is the facts. This is kind of a principle without getting all like exaggeration and stuff. Now, this part is for the science bros or the science people because I understand not everyone is really into like the woo-woo stuff. Neuroplasticity study shows your brain physically rewires based on repeated thoughts, right? So you can actually like look it up yourself. Neuroplasticity. They actually did a study on that. People who visualize success had the same neural patterns as people who achieved it. Your brain cannot tell the difference between vivid imagination and reality. So this isn't just philosophy or trying to sound deep. This is practical neuroscience backing up ancient wisdom from thousands of years ago. And it's so funny because I can give you a real example. I worked with an Eastern medicine doctor in South Korea, a brilliant guy. His name was Jae Woo. He was making 5-6K a month US, but stuck there for like months, right? He tried everything, right? Marketing, staff promotions, nothing really moved the needle. Competitor was making more with less effort, like half-ass work. And he said to me on the session, he was like, Reeves, I charge more, my solutions last, but cheaper competitors keep stealing clients. I don't know what else to do. Maybe I'm not cut out for this. And I was like, bro, it's the limits of your beliefs that limits what you can experience in reality. I always say this line in my videos, but to emphasize this one can kind of defies everything you learn. It is the limits of your beliefs that limits what you can experience in your reality. So his internal belief was essentially that cheaper competitors are stealing my clients. The economy is down, people want cheap solutions, and that became his reality. He was literally one day sitting in the clinic, like nobody's in there, and just texting me, right? So I altered his belief. The right clients will come. Those aren't my competitors because they're not even on the same level, not on my level. People who value lasting solutions will find him. And 2 months later, no strategy changes, only frequency changes. 11 clients in 3 hours versus less than 5 a day. So like people who actually value his work, he keeps running into them. By the way, if you're an entrepreneur and you would like to break out your revenue ceiling, link in description, work with me one-on-one. I help different entrepreneurs. It's not just coach, I guide different entrepreneurs to get to their target revenue level within like 2 to 3 months. So link in description to apply if you want to work one-on-one with me. But in a nutshell, that's the mirror principle, right? His external reality had no choice but to match his new internal state. Remember, has no choice. The mirror doesn't lie. It only reflects. Now, we got the neuroscience out of the way. How could I look Asian and not talk about some Eastern philosophy, right? And recently, I've been reading a very interesting book. It's literally right here. It's called No Nonsense Spirituality by Brittany Hartley. It's a very interesting book because like if you're on a path like me, or you had like some sort of like religion programming growing up, and essentially like you're either like traumatized or you have other thoughts, it kind of gives you a blueprint on what to do next, or like sort of like how to sort of guide your own life. I highly recommend that book because no nonsense, just like my videos. Now, we talked about the neuroscience part, so click on your left brain. Now let's go on your right brain by talking about some ancient wisdom. I see a lot of people nowadays, especially the Westerners, love to talk about Tao Te Ching. Yo, if I'm being real with you, this is the most OG way to spell Tao Te Ching, not the T, okay? If you know, you know. So Eastern philosophy has been teaching this for thousands of years. I used to think it's so lame, but now I understand a little bit more. So Tao Te Ching talks about this, right? The more you try to name the truth, the further you drift. The more you try to figure out success logically, the more you block the flow. I also am Buddhist. So obviously I read a lot of like Buddhist texts, but now I read them in a different state of consciousness. And there's one quote from Buddha, which is, all that we are is a result of what we have thought. My programming went deep, like balls deep, right? My parents would say, I don't want to say my parents, but my family would say, don't stick your head out, blend in, money will make you cocky, right? And this created a twisted relationship with money for me. Like, if you know anything about Lunar New Year or Chinese New Year, people give red envelopes with cash, right? This is part of my culture. I'll sneak in the bathroom to check, $5, stingy fucks. But when I receive $100, I would say, do I deserve $100? That's too much money. You see the contradiction there? Couldn't win either way. Too little, I'm resentful. Too much, I feel guilty. That's what happens when you're programmed to believe money is unspiritual. The internal conflict was creating my external reality. I was sabotaging my own success because deep down, I believed money was wrong. But, the Bible also says the same thing. Luke 7:21, it says, the kingdom of God is within you, not in the sky. The kingdom of God is nothing more than a state of consciousness. Different traditions, same truth. Inner creates outer. Now, we've gone through the ancient wisdom talking about how inner creates outer. Everything is within you. And we're going to go back to the science. So if you are into like physicists, I'm sure you're not like unfamiliar with this name, Max Planck. I hope I said it right. Essentially, he's one of the founders of quantum mechanics, and he discovered something that changed everything, right? He said, consciousness isn't a byproduct of matter. It's the opposite. Consciousness is the foundation. Physical matter comes from it. Matter comes from consciousness. And this is physics, right? This is what a physicist said. This is not like just me spiritual talking and trying to bypass you. Everything is energy vibrating at different frequencies, right? So energy, frequency, vibration. Thoughts are energy. Emotions are energy. Physical circumstances are energy. Energy always matches energy. If you're vibrating from a frequency of lack, you attract circumstances that match lack. frequency of abundance, you attract abundance. And I want you to conceptualize it as it's not just magic, it's also physics. Because Nikola Tesla once said, right, if you want to know the secret of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. The Hermetic principles also gone through this. Cause and effect operates on all planes, not just physical. So your thoughts are essentially causes. But not only your thoughts, right? Your thoughts and emotion, they're both causes to what happens in this physical plane. They create effects in your physical life. So we're just going to call it reality just for the sake of everyone like to use that word. So negative thought. First effect of negative thought, you glue to more negative thoughts. It's a negative spiral. Ever notice when you spiral more pile on? Starts with one doubt, right? Maybe you go like, maybe this isn't working. Then maybe it's the economy. Maybe it's my niche. I'm not smart enough. My time hasn't come yet. Paralyzed. Can't make decisions, second guessing everything you do. Internal chaos eventually shows up like external chaos in your business. But it works the other way, right? Positive thoughts attracts more positive thoughts, which is an upward spiral. Eventually manifests as positive circumstances. Now it's funny because I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, stuck at the same income for a year. Smart guy, smarter than me at least, works hard, does everything right. I asked this one question. What do you think when you wake up? He was like, honestly, bro, all the shit I have to do and how it's probably not gonna work out. I literally was like, bro, that's your problem right there. You're literally planting seeds of it's not gonna work every morning. Then you're surprised when it doesn't work. You cannot expect abundance while thinking scarcity. Now, there's another interesting part about this mirror principle, and it's simply this, right? And this should give you that click moment in your head. Energetic history. What if I told you right now, your physical world right now is just an energetic history? What you're experiencing today is the result of thoughts and feelings from weeks or months ago. So, past, inner state, current reality. Time lag between inner cause and outer effect. So there's a time lag in between in the mirror principle. That's one thing about the mirror principle is funny. When you look in the mirror right now and you smile, it's better be smile simultaneous with you. Otherwise, I would get out of that house. But in the realm of metaphysics and manifestation, there's always a lag in between. So you could be smiling to the mirror and then it smile back to you 10 seconds later. But more often than not, you smile into the mirror, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you see no smile in the mirror and you're like, fuck this, it's not working. That's why you don't manifest shit. I hope that makes sense. When you look at your bank account, business results, you're looking at old data, harvests of planted seeds in the past. People look at that old harvest and use it to determine what seeds to plant today. They see lack, they plant more lack. They see struggle, they plant more struggle. But when you understand the mirror principle, you can break that cycle right now. Like, my breakthrough comes from this, right? I was sitting at my store. So essentially, if you don't know already, I started my first business, which is selling, because it's illegal here. Sitting at my store, I was looking at numbers. And one day I was like, damn, the number is same as last month, a month before. Caught myself. This month's probably not going to be good either. Stopped it. And I was like, wait, I'm literally expecting the worst. That's exactly what I keep getting because I learned all this manifestation shit, but I was literally still making that mistake. I made a mental decision. I'm done planning for the worst. From now on, expecting the best. Operating from abundance, regardless of what the mirror shows. Because, again, mirror is always going to be delayed. So you cannot directly control what happened in the physical world. However, you can indirectly impact what happens on the physical world based on your vibratory rate, based on the rate of vibration. So if you're vibrating at a rate of like abundance, whatever, you're more likely attract the abundance and more likely to attract all those experiences, what you're going to experience in your reality. You cannot control reality, but you can control your perception towards reality, which eventually the world will have no choice but to manifest your perception of reality, right? So I want you to, from today on, always expect the best, right? Back to my story. I started inner work. I started to do meditating, visualizing, monitoring, observing my thoughts. The spirituality 101, you do all that kind of shit in the beginning. Every time I caught my old mentality, I'll just do a 180 flip, right? And within weeks, like things has shifted. I don't know exactly how many weeks has it been. It's a while ago. But customer I hadn't seen in months came back, right? And new opportunities showed up. My Google ranking bumped up. Income increased without really working more hours. All I did was I stopped letting the mirror tell me who I was. I started telling the mirror who I am. Now, when it comes to this mirror principle thing, it's also sort of correlated to the Pareto rule. And I'm sure you've heard of this, the 80-20 rule. And you have definitely heard like 80% of the money goes to 20% of the people, whatever. This principle, 80-20 rule, also works in metaphysical too. So how do you actually use the 80-20 rule, right? The 80-20 rule applies to reality creation. Simple as that. I want you to conceptualize it like this, right? 80% of your reality comes from your inner. I'm not going to sit here and bullshit you like, external reality doesn't matter. It does. There's a reason why like it exists, but a lot of times, like I would say about 80% comes from the inner. Of course, I don't have an exact number for you, but you get the point. 80% inner. Only 20% from external strategy. And I want you to conceptualize like this, right? 80% of your results come from inner, and 20% comes from the outer, which, outer really just consists what strategy you're using in either your work, business, relationships, career, what action you're taking. But you can do all that and it's really only going to move the needle a little bit. Inner, it's really just, thoughts, emotions, conviction, self-concept. Another way to say this is identity, focus, attention, perception, and beliefs. Damn, who would have thought? Like, there's 7 hermetic principles. There's also 7 inner rule. Thoughts, emotions, conviction, self-concept. Another way to say is identity, focus, your attention, your beliefs, and your perception. It's everything that kind of shapes your inner. So most of us have it backwards, right? And this is going to click for you because guess what? We spend 80% of the time or more on tactics. What strategy? How am I going to outsmart my competitors? And only 20% on internal state. That's why you're grinding 80 hours a week, burning out, but getting nowhere. I want you to flip it from today on. Inner state aligned first, action becomes effortless and inspired, not forcing, flowing. And think of it like making Chinese herbal soup, right? I'm going to have a Chinese soup analogy here. Chinese soup analogy. So listen up. Focus on ingredients and heat. That's your inner work. Don't constantly lift the lid to check how's the soup going. Every time you lift it, you let heat out. Takes longer to cook. The more you check, the worse it turns out. Trust the process, maintain right temperature, which is the frequency, let it simmer. Eventually, the Chinese herbal soup is perfect. That was brilliant. But for real, all you have to do is maintain that inner state. That's all you have to do. Of course, you still have to take action and shit, but you will know what to do when you're in that internal state. A lot of people always come up to this like very confusing. They're like, you have to take inspired action or your manifestation fails. To be honest, I don't really subscribe to that. You might delay your manifestation, but there's no such thing as failed manifestation. Because in a sense, like that's kind of go against manifestation principles, right? If everything is one, how's there failing in manifestation? You might delay it, but there's no failing. So if you're in that spot right now, you're like, fuck, I fucked up today. I let my aggression out. I was having a low frequency day. Please don't let that to deviate from your goal and understand that your manifestation is still in place. You might have delayed it by a little bit, but it's okay. You can still manifest it. All the work you did is still there. Pick up where you left off. It's sort of like, if you didn't go to the gym, I didn't go to the gym for the last 3 days. Does that mean I'm going to stop going to the gym completely? And be like, fuck, I didn't go to the gym for 3 days, so I'm fucked. No, I'm just going to go back tonight and live heavy and see what happens, right? And by the way, like the youngsters nowadays, super fucking strong. Like I was literally there. I saw some 17-year-old was like benching like 275. And I saw some 19-year-old benching 315. I was like, damn. Like back in my military school days, I was benching like maybe 200 pounds. I was like 16. But These kids are really just so strong nowadays. Like, it's crazy. Anyways, Chinese medicine principle thing, the same with the mirror principle. Focus on inner states, thoughts, emotion, frequency. Don't constantly check your bank accounts and be like, I'm worth $1 million. No, I'm not. I'm worth $1 million. No, I'm not. Bro, are you or are you not? You cannot sit at 2 chairs at once. Don't over-obsess results. Maintain right internal temperature. Eventually, external results shows up. Now, we're done with the theory stuff. Then nobody really want to just watch theory. So I'll give you a practical step on how to apply this from today on, right? The first thing I would say, the step 1, and it doesn't matter where you are in reality, in life. This works for everyone. The first thing I want you to do is monitor your thoughts. We're often thinking a lot of times, but we're never really monitoring what we're thinking, right? So the next thought you have, ask yourself, do I want this thought to be a seed in my reality? If no, just say, no thanks, reject it, and select a new thought, right? Choose a better thought than that. If you're analytical like most entrepreneurs, including myself, you're probably overthinking this already. What if I can't catch every thought? Well, start with this, 51%. What do you mean by 51%? Get to 51% monitored and selected. So if you have 10 thoughts, as long as you have more than 5 thoughts that it's monitored and selected, you're off to the races. You don't need to be perfect, just better than yesterday. Step 2, inner work. I know when I get to this point, you're like, inner work? Shut the fuck up. But listen, okay? I'm not going to tell you what technique to do. You can do meditation. You can do visualization. You can even just read good materials that's, aligned with your desired reality. The purpose of this is train your mind to maintain a high inner state for a longer period of time. Don't just meditate for 20 minutes and let your mind run wild. You're always sending out a signal to the universe. You're always planting seeds. And step 3, you're at cause, not effect. And I really wanted to remind you this like one more time, even though you have been reminded so many times. You are a creator. You are a creator. You are a creator. You are a creator. You are not a victim. You're not a fucking victim. You're not a victim. Okay? I said it 3 times. Get that in your head. If you're operating from effect, that means that you're blaming everything that's outside of you that you cannot control. The economy, the competition, the timing isn't right. At cause, take full responsibility. Your internal state creates your external reality. Again, you can't be both. Choose one. Okay? Now you have the recipe for the perfect inner state, or to maintain a higher inner state on a longer period of time. Time for the real bread and butter, right? How to take action. And it's funny because you don't need to take action. Nah, I'm just kidding. Of course you have to take action. Of course. Why else do you think you exist in this body? There's a reason why you exist in here. So what about taking action, right? There's this person say this, that person say this. I'm just going to simplify it, make it as simple as possible because the truth is always simple. Here's what happens when your internal state is aligned. You gain clarity. You stop second guessing. You stop asking, should I do this or that? You just know. And when you know, you move. That's the difference. Most entrepreneurs I work with aren't stuck because they don't know what to do. They're actually stuck because they're operating from the wrong frequency. Their inner state is chaotic, so their decision making is chaotic. They have 10 different decisions to make and they don't know which one to pick. When you align your internal state first, clarity comes naturally. You wake up and just know what needs to be done that day, not because you planned it out perfectly, but because it's obvious. That client you've been unsure about, you will know whether to take them in or not. That business decision or career-driven decision overthinking for weeks, you will know the answer. That opportunity that seems risky, you will know if it's aligned or not. This isn't about waiting for some mystical sign from the universe. This is about getting your internal state clear enough that the noise disappears and the signal becomes very obvious in your face. Here's what this looks like in practicality, right? Or practically. When you're aligned internally, you will notice you stop asking other people what you should do. You stop needing validation for every decision. You stop scrolling through advice looking for the right answer. You just know and you move. That's clarity-driven action. And it only comes when your internal state is aligned with what you actually want. When you're doing the inner work, monitoring your thoughts, maintaining your frequency, this clarity becomes your default state, right? Decisions that used to take days now take seconds or a couple hours or maybe a day or two. Actions that used to feel heavy now feel natural. You won't be able to help but to move forward because the path is so clear to you. Now, at the end of the day, you have to be the one that experienced this yourself. So if you're already stuck, right, instead of going, this guy's just spitting bullshit, apply everything I teach you in this video or in my other old videos and see what happens. You got nothing to lose anyway, right? The worst case scenario is, damn, I actually improved, So there's nothing to lose here. So that's the mirror principle in a nutshell. These principles are working in your life whether you know about them or not, unconsciously for most people, or consciously, hopefully for you if you start applying it. Remember, the outer world follows the inner world. That's the core. Focus on your inner world, thoughts, emotions, consciousness. Monitor your thinking. Do the inner work, be at cause, not at effect. Take clarity-driven action. And here's what I want you to do, and I'm that serious, right? For the next 7 days, every morning before your phone, before your bank account, just spend like 5 minutes visualizing a desired reality as if it's already done. And by visualizing, I mean you're going from the first person narration, you feel it, you see it, and you embody it. Throughout the day, every time you catch yourself planning for the worst or thinking a negative thought, stop, breathe, flip it, choose the opposite thought. 7 days straight, no excuses. No, I forgot. 7 days. Day 8, come back to this video, comment exactly what shifted. Specific results. Did a client show up? Money come in unexpectedly? Opportunity appear? Your mindset change? I guarantee if you actually do this for 7 days, you will see the mirror principle work in your life. Comment below so others can see it's real. More people do this and share results, the more we prove this isn't a theory, right? It's a proof of concept. This is how reality actually works. By the way, if you're an entrepreneur at the same level for a while in terms of revenue, try the strategies, put in the work, but results aren't matching your effort and you're ready to address what's actually creating that so you can break out your revenue ceiling, your internal state, link in the description to book a call with me. We'll work one-on-one to break through those internal blocks, align your frequency, get your business moving without burning yourself down. Until next time, remember, the outer world follows the inner world. Change your internal state and reality will have no choice but to obey you. Peace.